I'm trying to film. Okay. As I mentioned, my cousin's podcast, Lofty Thoughts, don't forget the name, remember it, write it down. I thought I would do a section on podcasts, either podcasts that I am listening to, podcasts that, you know, I know some people who are involved in, all of those things. First up, the Realism Podcast.
Welcome back to the Realism Podcast. Today we will be discussing the coronavirus and the effects it has on businesses and the stock market, the opportunities to create long-term wealth and human behaviour in times of stability and panic. We hope you enjoy.
Now, if you're into business or bettering yourself or anything like that, this is the podcast to listen to by Reese Wabara and Lewis Morgan. Reese is the CEO of Marinier Dubois and Lewis is his like business partner, as well as he works on things with Gymshark and some other businesses as well. They've come together to put together this really insightful podcast about business, productivity, all of these things and all of, you know, things to help people get over the kind of processes in their head that make them sometimes struggle with business or business development. It's definitely a channel to check out. A channel? A podcast to check out. A channel. Check out this channel. A podcast that me and my family actually got to be on is Blend LA. Now, DJ Big D and DJ Dayslayer, it was an honour and a blessing to meet you out in LA. Y'all remember that time we could travel? Same. It was so great to be on your podcast, and thank you so much for giving us that opportunity and just to be able to just chat and really connect in that way. It was brilliant. If you haven't already heard that podcast, like our episode, but the podcast generally, make sure you give it a listen. If you're a lover of house music, like great house music, you're gonna love the podcast. Now, I have mentioned her in a recent video, but as well as having the Break platform, her Makeup Revolution palettes, and all of these other amazing things, she also has a podcast, Patricia Bright, the Caught Off Guard podcast. It's up there with some of my favourites, some of like the bigger podcasts that I love to listen to, like Pretty Big Deal with Ashley Graham. Like, those are some of the ones I love to listen to, and the fact that you're in that realm of just being so personable and talk to some really big, interesting people. You talk to Leomi Anderson. I listened to that I think I've listened to that whole episode at least 4, maybe 5, maybe 10 times. That's how brilliant it is. Make sure you go and check it out. It's very inspirational, very deep and insightful. Talk a little bit about money and all of those things. So yeah, go give it a listen. The 0 to 100 podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You're tuned into Oxford 0 to 100 podcast, where we talk everything A to Z about Oxford and its surrounding areas, and sometimes we don't.
With my boys H and Bear, or Bear and H, whichever order you usually say it in. This podcast is popping. It is so good. The boys just know how to bounce off each other, know how to speak to people. I think one of their most recent podcasts, they got to interview the CEO of Blenheim Palace. We all met him on the same day, and he's one of the nicest down-to-earth guys, and they got to chat to him, laugh, joke, and all of those brilliant things. So keep going, guys. I cannot wait for it to blow out? I can't wait for it to blow up even further than just Oxford. And last but by no means least, the Young Innovators UK podcast. I have a very special place in my heart for this podcast and the brilliant young man behind it, Harvey King. You're such an exceptional talent. Not only are you an exceptional talent, but you know what, I'm not even going to tell you, I'm just going to show you a bit of his video, something that he did recently, just to say thank you and to give back to the NHS.
Where am I actually going with this video? And in week 3 of quarantine, I finally came up with the idea that I wanted to give back to the NHS, but directly on my behalf. So following all the guidelines, I had to plan it out just to make sure that I was following what the government had said. So my plan was this. I was going to go to the nearest hospital on a Thursday, as this was the day that we would normally clap the NHS at 8 PM. I was going to write out thank you cards to show my appreciation for the NHS staff, as well as give flowers and place them on the windscreen of their cars, as this meant that I was able to follow the government guidelines this way and not have to get close up and give them by hand. I wanted to make sure that before I put them on the windscreens that they were disinfected, so I wiped them down with anti-bac wipes just to be on the safe side. I also came across a really nice hoodie that I found called National Hero Service, and I was going to stand there at 8 PM and clap them in the hoodie just to make sure that they could see the hoodie and try show the local hospital appreciation for everything that they've done. I then decided and found which hospital that I wanted to go to, so I chose the one that I knew the best. I didn't want to clap the wrong people. I wanted to make sure that I was clapping the NHS workers. The hoodie finally arrived, and when it arrived, I sort of decided that I wanted to reach out to the hospital before I went and done anything, sure that they were okay with what I was doing. So I spoke to a member of staff at the NHS, and they said it was completely fine and that they were really grateful for what I was doing. All that was left to do now was to head to the hospital and give back to the NHS. As I had finished putting the flowers on the cars, I had realised that there was actually a lot more cars than I'd originally anticipated there to be, so I quickly ran to the local shop and bought more flowers to then go back and put some more on. So despite not actually being able to see any of the nurses' reactions because of course social distancing, I actually came across a post on Facebook from one of our local Facebook pages, and she'd said, and the person who'd ever took the picture had said that I had made their day, which was amazing to actually see that I'd had the sort of impact that I wanted to. So that comes to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I was able to spread some sort of positivity and also spread appreciation for the NHS workers and also the key workers. They're doing so much for our country right now, and they're basically keeping us going. So without them, we would be struggling a lot. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe, guys, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Do y'all people see what I mean now? This child, ooh. So brilliant, and all the things that you do to try and lift other people up is just amazing. Please continue to do that because the world needs so much more of that.